world's on fire. Don't touch me, I'm a real live wire. Psycho killer, catch the sea. Better run, 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 run away. Oh.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Obscura, the show where we look at the best and worst horror has to offer. I'm your host, the Fear Fan, and thanks for tuning in. You know, every once in a while, a series is given the rare, once-in-a-lifetime chance to completely reinvent itself. When a franchise reaches a point where the story it's been telling has ended, it's suddenly free to take things in a bold new direction. It can introduce a new antagonist, add an unexpected twist to the series premise, or even tell a new kind of story completely different from anything that's come before. With the death of Jason Voorhees and what was billed as the final Friday, Paramount had the opportunity for exactly that sort of innovation. An opportunity the studio clearly embraced, judging by the sequel's working title of Repetition. Because I guess calling it Friday the 13th, another one, would have been just a little too on the nose. Huh. Who would have guessed that the people who named a film The Final Friday, despite that it takes place on a Tuesday, and that it's only fourth in a series of 10, were about as interested in bringing something new to the table as they were in keeping series continuity straight. Still, as the old saying goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And why would they? After all, each film had treated the previous movie's box office record with about as much respect as Jason reserved for pretty much any window in Crystal Lake. Clearly they had a good thing going, and weren't about to give up on it, even though the film, wisely renamed A New Beginning, marked the first time that the series would be slashing its budget, as well as its cast. Still, despite the clear indications that we'd be getting more of the same, there were a few glimmers of hope. Namely in the shape of director Danny Steinman, who had made a few waves directing some minor cult hits such as The Unseen and Savage Streets. But would an up-and-coming director be enough to change things up for a series that had essentially given us the same film 4 times before? The Final Friday, with its great effects, star power, and promise of an epic finish to the series, would be a tough act to follow, so the question loomed large. Would this indeed be a new beginning, or would the series reinvent itself as a piece of shit? There's only one way to know for sure, so let's tune in and find out. We begin, appropriately enough, on a dark and stormy night, where Tommy Jarvis has picked the crappiest night of the year to pay a visit to none other than the incredibly convincing grave of Jason Voorhees, which apparently consists of several boards hot glued together with his name painted on. Still, Tommy has very little time to marvel at the fact that Paramount apparently hired Ed Wood as their production designer, since a couple of other assholes quickly stumble on the scene to pay a visit to what is apparently a hot tourist attraction. No doubt disappointed by the lack of a souvenir stand, the two grab some convenient shovels and dig in to pick up some truly authentic memorabilia. Oh, come on, they buried him in his hockey mask? That must have been one hell of an awkward funeral. No doubt even more so since he was apparently not only buried with some murdering tools, but also alive. And normally I'd call bullshit dream sequence at this point, but given how well their morgue worked in part 4, I'm willing to give them a mulligan on this one. Anyway, while Jason retrieves his machete from his newly made idiot kebab, Tommy, with the same brilliant survival instincts that told him to shave his head when faced with certain death, stands completely fucking still for the relative eternity it takes for Jason to cross the yard. And no joke, it takes a full minute and a half for him to make the journey. Nations have risen and fallen in the time it takes Tommy's reflexes to kick in. So before a paralyzed protagonist could muster the strength for so much as a "you mad bro," Jason prepares to give Tommy back the machete he used at the end of part 4, only to be interrupted by an overused horror trope. Oh my god, I had the worst dream that I was Corey Feldman. Ugh. Yep, not only is this brand new take on the series, starting with one of the most overused and outdated tropes in horror, but we're also getting a brand new actor in Tommy's role, courtesy of Corey Feldman's contractual obligation to appear in some other movie that you've never heard of. Anyway, it seems that somebody noticed Tommy's "yup, I'm crazy now" look from the end of part 4, because he's apparently spent the last several years being bounced between mental institutions. And judging by how old the actor replacing him looks, I'm willing to say it was about 20 years or so. Of course, that would mean this movie takes place in the far-flung year of 2004, and if you say that each sequel after this takes place 1 to 3 years after the previous one, it suddenly makes sense that Jason X takes place in the fucking future. Of course, it seems that his years in the mental institution have not been kind to Tommy, as he has not only begun to bear a suspicious resemblance to the "they're eating her" guy from Troll 2, but has also been rendered almost completely mute. In their infinite wisdom, his doctors have declared him nearly cured, and have decided to send him to a convalescent home located in, you guessed it, Crystal Lake. You know, as opposed to literally anywhere else on the fucking planet. Well, I guess that puts mental health care in Crystal Lake on the same level as their morgue and police department. Still, I guess that explains how somebody could spend that long in a mental institution and come out crazier than when they went in. I wonder what the hell his therapy consisted of.
For your own good. For your own good.
So, once they reuse the title explosion from parts 2 and 4, you know, because this is a new beginning and all, Tommy arrives at his new digs, Pinehurst Youth Development Center / Forced Labor Camp. There, after a quick drop-off from Captain Combe over here, he gets to meet two of his new government-appointed handlers, Pam and Matthew. In addition to having the personality of Driftwood, they apparently have some rather accurate observations on Tommy's previous treatment.
Just wonder his mind isn't fried with all the drugs I've given him.
Well, thank God that didn't happen. So, once they tell him that their institute runs on the honor system, Tommy heads to his room, where he demonstrates just how well that works by pulling out the concealed weapon he somehow managed to get his hands on in the last few minutes. Great, we're 10 minutes in and it's already obvious that everyone here is an idiot. Well, at least we still got the series' trademark special effects to look forward to. God, I miss Tom Savini. Crap, I almost wish they'd bring another snake in like they did in part 1. Instead, we get Reggie, the annoying child comic relief that audiences were clearly clamoring for.
They call me Reggie the Reckless.
Yeah, hate to tell you this, kid, but I can think of at least one or two other things that people probably call you. Of course, it looks like Tommy shares my opinion, and probably scares the hell out of the little shit. Sadly, before he can work his way up to using his knife on Reggie the Reprehensible, they find themselves interrupted by yet another example of how well their honor system works. It turns out that along with the 3 or 4 presidential elections that apparently occurred between this movie and the last one, Crystal Lake has finally gotten around to electing Sheriff Beefy's replacement. Apparently they traded up, since this one can move faster than a light jog, and has used that ability to capture 2 runaways from Camp Crazy. In the grand tradition of pretty much every teenager who ever came to Crystal Lake, the 2 of them were bumping uglies on property that unfortunately belongs to these 2.
Ethel, these kids weren't doing?
Doing? You think I don't know what those 2 perverts were doing in my yard?
Say it like you mean it, Ma!
Would you shut the fuck up?
Meet Ethel, the local insane hillbilly stereotype, and Junior, her son. Or brother. Or husband. All of the above? Naturally, they're not pleased that someone else was on their homestead / breeding ground, and they react yet more poorly when it looks like the sheriff might round them up for the crazy farm too.
Don't you come near me, Sheriff, I warn you. I got a bomb on me. I swear to you.
Oh shit, look out! She's got a copy of her last movie, Convict Women! Look, I know it wasn't a big box office draw, but what do you expect from something that was directed by the same guy that made Black Rage? Anyway, while watching the 1980s version of Here Comes Honey Boo Boo might be entertaining, it's finally time for us to start introducing our main cast, starting with Joey. Okay, maybe not, but let's face facts, just about anything would be better than... Ooh boy, is it too late to go back to the other one? Yup folks, feast your eyes on Joey and all his doughy, chocolate-smeared glory. And if you guessed that he looks like the single most gratuitously annoying human being on the planet, then congratulations, you were born with eyes!
Want a chocolate bar? Here, you want it? It's really no problem.
Joey!
If that's how you feel, forget it. I'll just go help somebody else instead.
Jesus, it's like Shelley from Part 3 in The Blob had a mentally handicapped baby. Made of fudge. Well, maybe he just needs a straight man, which this film is willing to supply in the shape of local tough guy Victor Fadden. And I will give Joey this. While he may be 80% fudge and 20% human character and 100% annoying, he does have the most hilariously random death sequence in the entire franchise.
Hi, Vic.
Get lost.
Come on, don't be like that. I'm gonna help you with the wood today.
Leave me alone!
Here, Vic, want a bite? Here, I'll just put it over here. And later on, when you're hungry, you can have it. Well, if that's the way you feel, forget it, Vic. Just forget it. But I think you're really out of line.
Comedy gold.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
So after Victor has hilariously dispatched Joey, we learn that Joey was abandoned by his parents for reasons that I can't even begin to guess at.
Want a chocolate bar?
We also learn that while Axel the medical examiner may have died doing what he loved, namely watching erotic exercise videos, his bedside manner lives on in the current generation of Crystal Lake paramedics.
Bunch of pussies. Come on, Roy. Get your hands dirty.
Chill out, Roy. Given how much carnage the average Crystal Lake ambulance driver sees, it's not surprising that they are jaded as fuck. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if by this point, their funeral home just said fuck it and was patching up corpses with duct tape. So, while Roy and Chuckles there prepare to pour Joey into a plastic baggie for disposal, we cut to later that night, and here we actually do get to see one of the few innovations this film brought to the series. I'm speaking, of course, about what I've come to refer to as murder vignettes. Like I said before, part of the problem with upping the body count in each sequel is that with so many characters on the chopping block, it really doesn't give us much time to get to know them. Enter the movie's current focus, Pete and Vinny, who, judging by the fact that they're dressed like the Village People doing a revival of Grease and their adorable bickering, might just be the series' first gay couple.
Hey, Paulie. Whoops. Dropped my bar of softball, buddy. Let's get in here with the old pal. Ho, ho, ho.
Okay, second gay couple. Anyway, rather than trying to convince us to give a fuck about characters that barely have any screen time despite being the debatable focus of their own movie, it's at this point the series says fuck it and decides to start giving us scenes like this. Essentially, these murder skits run thusly. One or more characters we've never seen before wander on screen, complain about being lost in the woods, then meander about before taking a road flare down the throat. And while this may not be the ideal solution, in this case it at least spawns another series first, a musical number. Not bad. Everybody sing along if you know the words. Oh, come on, the singing wasn't that bad. So once we learn that yes, Tommy is being haunted by the ghost of a much better movie, it's time for us to finally meet the other residents of the Cuckoo's Nest. And, given how fucked up Joey and Victor were, it's obvious that we will be dealing with some pretty disturbed individuals. For example, there's Georgie, a cretinous fiend cursed by the gods to have a slight, non-debilitating stutter.
I hope Victor gets what coming to him.
Then, as though that weren't enough madness, there's Violet, who, unlike every other teenager ever, listens to music, dresses to piss off her parents, and is mildly irritable.
You don't set a place for a dead person.
I said I was sorry.
And, worst of all, is Robin, who the writers forgot to give a single personality trait. Okay, so maybe they're not crazy so much as they are either deeply irritating or very, very boring. Hell, the only other two there are the pantsless wonders from earlier, whose only defect is that they keep trying to sneak into their neighbor's patch of hillbilly heaven, which, forgive me if I'm wrong, hardly qualifies as a mental illness. Seriously, I'm starting to wonder if anybody here actually is crazy. Ah, right.
Relax, Chief. What's wrong? No sense of humor?
Tommy mad.
Can't you take a joke?
Tommy smash! So while Tommy works out his anger issues in what promises to be one of the most awkward group therapy sessions ever, we pay a quick visit to Ethel and Junior's love shack that serves no purpose other than to introduce us to a nameless character that might as well be called Red Herring. With that pressing business out of the way, it's time to check in with the Crystal Lake PD, who have apparently altered their investigative techniques from wait 3 days to catch the killer after he's already dead, to something a little more advanced.
I want every inch of this area combed thoroughly. Bring back anything you find. Anything.
Found anything yet? We ain't found shit.
You talking to me, Sheriff? No, Roy, it's okay.
God damn it, Roy, you're not a character, so quit trying to be. Of course, I can't really blame him, since it seems that even Captain Comb-Over from earlier gets his own subplot.
Well, what would you like?
I would like Lana to go with nothing on.
Wouldn't hold my breath if I were you, buddy. I ordered a side of plot to go with my movie over half an hour ago, and it still hasn't shown up. Still, while we wait, at least we can get some entertainment in the form of the traditional serial killer mating call of...
It's showtime!
And... Sure enough, within moments, we've got mysterious noises, cats being hurled at people from off-screen, and we soon discover that the killer apparently has a vendetta against male pattern baldness. Look, if that comb-over wasn't working, I don't think it matters what you use to part his hair. Although it's probably just as well that the balding wonder checks out, since his order of Lana to go with nothing on her not only arrives late, but also as a carryout. After yet another demonstration of just how ready Tommy is to rejoin society, we find that apparently the sheriff's super fancy investigative techniques have finally paid off.
I know who it is.
Ooh, tell me, who is it? Is it the guy who's obviously only there to make us think that he did it? The other guy that we're obviously supposed to think did it? The Lord fucking Humongous? Come on, detective. Thrill me.
It's Jason Voorhees.
Great. The old sheriff's department waited until he was dead to catch him, and the new sheriff's department has actually managed to wait till he's already been buried. Now that's what I call progress. So while he moves on to suspect number 2, namely Jack the Ripper, we see that the kids are once again taking advantage of the honor system, and it's here that another of this film's many problems rears its ugly head. You see, in addition to those other films I mentioned, it seems the director had a history with a certain other form of exploitation cinema. In other words, porn. Yep, that's right. It seems that long before horror turned into torture porn, Steinman was trying to turn it into actual porn. Of course, that sat about as well with the MPAA as you might expect, and staring down the barrel of an X rating, an important choice had to be made. Either neuter every single kill in the movie to the point where most of the gore effects are off screen, or lose the tits. And in a series that only holds its audience's interest because of the inventive murder scenes, the choice was obvious. Yep, they went with the Feldman solution, as demonstrated by the demise of our buddy Red Herring. That's why, instead of getting The Burning, we instead get The Blandening. I'm starting to wonder if the killer's in league with the MPAA, since, while they're busy trying to cover our eyes metaphorically, the killer does the same for the characters literally. Not bad, but I'd probably be more impressed if I didn't already suspect that his skull was hollow. That, and if not, Jason could just decide which direction to twist the strap in order to tighten it. Of course, while he's still trying to figure out righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, the rest of our cast have decided to take a field trip to visit Reggie's brother, named Demon, presumably because the writers ran out of actual people names when creating their bloated list of characters. So, while Reggie learns an important lesson about the objectification of women...
Freaking A! Where'd you get that?
Tommy gets into yet another staring contest with an inanimate object. And to clarify, I am talking about the neon sign and not Junior, although I can understand your confusion. So Junior tries to start some shit, clearly forgetting that Tommy is the strongest one there is, and once we see that Tommy's apparently been studying Kung Fu in the asylum, we get the single most satisfying moment in the entire film. Yeesh, that one even got its own musical sting. Oof. One more time. Hey, cut me some slack. I've got to take what enjoyment I can out of this piece of shit. Of course, once Tommy's managed to do in Junior's, well, Junior, he realizes that explaining the situation would actually require dialogue and hauls ass out of there before he can be forced to, you know, act. Still, that leaves us with Demon, played by the awesome Miguel Nunez, a man so effortlessly cool that I defy this movie to fuck up his cameo.
Oh! Hey, you okay?
Oh! Some damn enchiladas! Oh!
Mission accomplished. Well, at least we get another musical number out of it.
Ooh, baby. Hey, baby. Hey, baby.
Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby. Ooh, baby.
Well, while it may be no rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tooey, it's not bad. Of course, Vixen Voorhees is quick to disagree, and after dispensing his usual brand of musical criticism, he decides to give Miguel the shaft. Good night, sweet prince, and may a flight of angels sing you to a much better movie released a few months after this one. While the rest of us mourn the lost potential for an interesting character, Pam stops back at the nut house, only to find that both Matt and Reggie's grandpa have gone missing. Being the only remaining responsible adult, she makes the only decision she possibly can.
Look, why don't you all go inside? I'm gonna go find everyone. Jake, I'm putting you in charge.
Yes.
Yup! Put one of the crazy kids in charge on a night when 50% of the inmates have gone missing, along with the only other two authority figures there. You know, I know you guys believe in the honor system, but I'm starting to think that you're stretching things a little bit. Clearly seeking out somebody who actually does know how to raise children, Junior heads over to Ethel's in an effort to get his mom-sister-wife's attention with his usual tact and subtlety. Jesus, would somebody just shut him up already? Thank God. Although, still not my favorite technique. It's the little things. Still, as much as I appreciated that, Jason Voorhees isn't quite done helping out yet, and helps Ethel with her stew by adding some chopped ham. You know, I'm starting to understand where the sheriff's Jason Voorhees theory came from. After all, this guy clearly hates Windows as much as Jason did. Anyway, since we've finally run out of side characters, it's time to move on to our main cast. And it's about time, too. I mean, there's only half an hour left in this movie, and none of them have had more than 5 minutes of screen time. I don't know about you, but they're going to have to be pretty damn charming to win me over in what little time they have left.
I want to be with you. I want to make love with you.
Wow. Okay, on one hand, I'm tempted to call her a callous bitch, but on the other, this is literally the first line of dialogue between the two since the movie started. He may actually have been moving a little bit fast. Of course, Georgie doesn't have to worry about getting inside Robin too much longer, as the killer spots him sulking in the upstairs hallway and quickly puts him out of our misery. And speaking of which, while Reggie the Revolting simulates most fans' reaction to the movie by this point, Robin heads upstairs to do some soul-searching. Topless soul-searching, no less. Because, hey, why have character development when you can just throw tits at the audience? Either way, once she realizes that thinking about stuff is like, totally hard, you guys, she slips into bed, only to find that even in death, Georgie is still interested in weaseling his way into her bed. I would be horrified, but with this editing, I can't tell whether he stabbed her or whether he just poked poor Georgie again. While all the blood and gore may be occurring off screen, that doesn't mean that there isn't plenty on screen to horrify audiences. Well, now we know why Violet's parents left her there. Lady, I have seen Crispin Glover dance, and you are no Crispin Glover. I've got to admire Jason Jr.'s taste in music, though, since he apparently hates fake Bowie as much as I do, and decides to give her the real thing. Countlessly roused from his slumber by shitty off-brand 80s dance music, Reggie heads upstairs, only to discover that not only does the crazy house host bitchin' sleepovers, but that Georgie was lucky enough to get 2 girls into bed with him.
What is it, Reggie? It's Pam. What's the matter? What's the matter?
Yeah, I know. It's almost like somebody grabbed him from behind and started shaking him while shouting in his face. Why would that scare a child? So Pam, doubtlessly realizing that the honor system has gone completely out the window, finally starts acting like a responsible adult and drags his ass out of there, or at least tries to before she's stopped by the new ultimate incarnation of evil. Alright folks, here it is, the moment of truth. The reveal of a killer that would dare to replace an icon. This movie may be called A New Beginning, but so far all we've had is derivative shit. The death of Jason Voorhees was your chance to innovate, to invent. So come on, movie, give us something new, something amazing. Blow my mind. Blue Stripes. You had access to a budget of $2,200,000. And to Paramount Pictures, the studio that gave us Indiana fucking Jones, and you give us Blue Stripes. There are not enough words in the English language, or any other language, to say fuck you enough for this. And to add lazy-ass insult to lazy-ass injury, as they do the whole running away thing, we get to encounter 3 kills that not only occurred off-screen, but which were no doubt better than the ones that we did see. Still, all's not lost, as we discover that decades before Freddy vs. Jason, audiences got to experience the joy of Killdozer vs. Fake Jason. Nice reflexes there, Chief. Who knows, maybe the killer actually is Tommy. Naturally, it takes more than slow-moving farm equipment to take the killer down, so, in their desperation, our heroes turn to a power which they cannot truly understand, let alone control. Oh yeah, it's back. Bigger, badder, barnier. And of course, sporting a variety of sharp objects with which to ensnare the unwary. But the death barn be a fickle mistress, and that which she giveth, she also taketh away. With her half-assed impression of Ginny from Part 2 rendered useless, Pam and Reggie seem doomed for sure until help arrives from an unexpected quarter. Alright, I'll admit that Tommy's been a rather limited protagonist so far. In fact, he only seems to have 2 modes, staring blankly at approaching danger, or ass-kicking machine, but when faced with a reasonable facsimile of his nemesis, I think that it's pretty obvious which of those 2 routes he's going to take here. Tommy has just enough energy to stab his attacker in the dick before passing out, although with his performance so far, I'm amazed anybody can tell the difference. Getting into the spirit of borrowing everything in this movie from earlier entries, Pam and Reggie try to pull apart 3 by knocking him out of the barn, only to predictably fuck it up and wind up in a tug-of-war with the kid. Of course, while I'd probably just let him have the little asshole, Tommy finally decides to be semi-useful by quite literally giving the others a hand. Once the Blue Stripe menace has finally hit rock bottom along with the rest of the movie, we finally get a good look at who was hiding behind the mask. And who in the fuck is that?
You talking to me, Sheriff?
Are you fucking kidding me? Yep, looks like Roy's lifelong ambition to actually have a fucking point is paid off, because later that night, Sheriff Exposition reveals that, in a half-assed parallel to the original Friday the 13th, Joey was Roy's son, who he had inexplicably dropped off at the orphanage, yet still somehow gave enough of a fuck about to slaughter a few dozen people who had nothing to do with the kid's death. And, to add the crap cherry to the top of this shit sundae, we find the Crystal Lake hospital rooms apparently come completely stocked with hockey masks and butcher knives, because of fucking course they do. The film film closes out on Tommy doing what Tommy does best, standing completely goddamn still while the camera zooms in on his stupid, motionless face. Anyway, that's Friday the 13th: A New Beginning, and oh my god, it is a complete fucking train wreck. I shit you not, I literally don't know where to start on the problems with this thing, since if Part 4 was an attempt to distill all the best elements of the series, Part 5's defects read like a laundry list of series flaws that were left in the strainer after they got done making that one. Still, I have to start somewhere, so it might as well be with the clusterfuck of a plot. Specifically, the choice of Roy as their half-ass stand-in for Jason. I don't mind that the series wanted to hand the torch off to another killer in the same costume, since Scream's managed to prove that that can be successful if the other story elements are still there. But why the fuck would they go with Roy? Anyone who spends 10 seconds thinking about it can see about a dozen plot holes here. First off, Joey, who in addition to being an insult directed at the whole human race, also serves as the unraveling point for the entire plot. We're told that his mother died and that nobody knows who the father was. That means that Roy refused to claim him for the 20-odd years it took him to grow into the stunt double for a vat of Jell-O pudding, but that A, he was able to somehow instantly recognize him as a kid despite not having seen him since he was a baby, and B, he was so enraged by the death of a kid that he clearly gave zero fucks about that he decided to go on a murder rampage. And then there's the fact that he dresses like Jason. The film gives us some bullshit hand-waving explanation about him keeping clips from Jason's spree, but really? The man went through the trouble to create a foam latex headpiece to simulate Jason's deformities. Why? If Jason's already dead, then he can't hope to pin the crimes on him, no matter how incompetent the local cops are. Was he trying to frame Tommy? If so, then again, why? How would he even know Tommy was sent there since he doesn't work for any place that would have access to those kinds of records? One of the producers' mandates with this movie was that, by the end, they wanted Tommy to be the villain. But that begs the question, why not just make him the villain from the start? Here, we have a guy who's already on shaky mental ground who witnesses a brutal axe murder. He's already got a history of putting himself in the mindset of a mass murderer, he's got a talent for making foam latex masks, and he's clearly got issues when it comes to overreacting in perceived self-defense. The more you look at it, the more obvious it is that Roy was just penciled in as a weak attempt at a twist ending. That is not what this film needed. If we had given Tommy a little bit more personality, read any, then we would have felt for him even as we became increasingly frightened of him. The rest of the movie's no better. The kills are either dull and uninspired rip-offs of previous ones, take place just off-screen, or take place way off-screen. By letting the MPAA have their way with the blood and gore, we're left with a bunch of titillation that, let's face it, in this day and age where hardcore porn is just a click away, fails to titillate. And on a related note, thank you, Internet. Hope it was good for you too. I've already mentioned that this series sometimes feels like it's in search of a main character, but this one's particularly bad. Not only are there no main characters, but it feels like there aren't any secondary characters either. We have next to no chance to get to know or care about these people, and as a result, it's impossible to give a shit about them as they are sliced and diced. Audiences apparently felt the same, and while the film still made money, it also represented the first time the series failed to bust its previous box office record. And while it's obvious that the franchise went on beyond this point, the betrayal that audiences felt at this thing made it clear that it would take more than a poorly thought out cash grab to bring the series back to life. But that's a story for another day. Next time, I'll be doing another You Asked For It episode. Till then, this is the Fear Fan, signing out.
Thank you.